Hey guys, welcome back to Robotics this week. The first thing I want to do this week is actually rewire how we connected the LED to the transistor pin on the Uno. If you remember, whenever we programmed it, if we said low, the LED would turn on. And if we said high, the LED would turn off. And it was, a lot of times that seems a little counterintuitive. Like it seems like it should be the other way. So what I want to do is first explain why that's the case, that right now the way we have it wired, when we say low, it actually turns on. And then what I want to do is flip it so that when we type in low in the code, it's actually going to turn off. And then when we type in high in the code, it actually turns on. So the first thing is let's look at how our circuit is previously or currently wired up. I'll explain why it works the way that it does, and then what we'll do is we'll change that up. All right, let's check out the whiteboard here. All right, so this is what we currently have. We have our Uno, okay. Here's my Uno. And we connected to pin number 7 and also G and D. All right. And what we did is that we took, I should also had a 5V, right? So let me do that. So we took 5V, connected it to a resistor, connected it to an LED, and then connected that part to 7. And then actually now I remember we didn't have a GND connection. And so the way that it worked is that there's actually a transistor inside here, okay? We talked about that. And the transistor, again, is just a switch for computers. It turns things, it's a way how, it's what computers use to turn things on and off, okay? And one side of the transistor connects to GND inside, okay? And then this right here, this part here was the nerve we talked about. So it's like the brain would control the transistor by sending a nerve signal down here, and that would turn the transistor on or off. All right. So why is it when we say transistor low that the light turns on? Well, this is what actually is happening, okay? So in our code, whenever we say set, what was it called? I think, digital write 7 low, right? This is the command that we would put inside our Arduino code. So whenever we said low, what's going on is that you're turning the transistor on, and what's going on is that it's connecting this right here, this part right here, this port, and it's bringing it low to GND. So if that happens, what happens is that 5V electricity goes through the 5V, through the resistor, through the light, all the way down to GND. And that's why, in that case, you have a closed circuit and the light will turn on. Okay? So if that's the case, all right, what happens then if instead of low, we say high? So this is one part I didn't fully explain last time, so I wanted to take a little time just to explain this. The transistor is on one side connected to GND. The other side right here is actually connected to, draw a line here, to 5V. Okay? And so what's going to happen is if you say digital write high, the transistor is going to actually turn, I'm just going to say off for now, for the sake of our conversation. Is it really off? It's kind of like half on, but the thing for us to remember is that the important thing right now is that when we say high, the transistor is like kind of off, okay, part off, and what's going to happen is that this pin right here, pin 7, is going to be then connected to the 5V up here, okay? And so let's look at the flow of electricity then, right? You have 5V, it goes through here, goes through the light, and then it doesn't go to GND, right? It goes to 5V. So, and it kind of makes sense too, because high, okay, is 5V, it's the higher number, but low is GND, which is the same thing as 0 volts or 0V. So when we say low, it goes to 0 volts. When we say high, it goes to 5 volts, which is the higher number. Now, if you look at the yellow here, do you see a closed circuit? Yeah, you do, because it's and this is actually what's going on. So if we were to redraw the circuit here, okay, I'm just using our heart metaphor here. You have like a 5V, okay? And so what's going on is that you have the resistor, you have the LED, right? But what's going on is that, so this minus here is GND, but you're actually connecting it back to 5V again up here, okay? So when we say, just make sure that we got this, when I say high, what happens is that this part of the circuit right here actually connects to 5V. And if that happens, this is what me drawing this circuit down here, this is what it looks like. You got 5V, which is the plus of the battery, resistor, LED, and then the minus of the LED goes back to 5V. So even though you have a loop, there's actually not going to be any power going through this light, okay? Because we're connected back to 5V. To actually get power to occur going through the light, you actually need to connect down here to the minus. And the minus is the same as GND. Okay? So that's just some context as to how the transistor is working inside, and why is it that when I say high, it is high. When I say high, the transistor on pin 7 goes to high, and even though we have a closed circuit, there's no power going through the light. Alright, so I'm going to change this over. So why don't we change it? How do we change it then? So that when we say high, it turns on. Okay, so let me draw my Uno again. Let me draw pin 7. And let me draw my transistor now. Okay. And my 5V is over here. My GND, I'll just put it down here so it's out of the way. Alright, so we know that one side of this transistor is connected to the GND. The other side is connected to the 5V. So another way that I could do this is, what if I did this? What if I put a resistor right here, put an LED right there, and then where do I put this? I connect this to GND. See, before I had a connection out here. I put this resistor, like this side of the resistor, I connected it to 5V before, right? So before it was like connected to 5V like that, but now I'm going to connect the resistor directly to pin 7. So now I want us to test. When I say high now, what's going to happen? Well, when I say high, what happens, remember? Pin 7 connects to 5V because the transistor is off. And so what happens is 5V goes here, through the resistor, through the light, to GND. What do you have? You have 5V up top all the way through, and then on the bottom you have GND. You're going to get 5 volts through the light. It's going to turn on. So in this case, we've just fixed it. When I say high, my light should turn on. Okay? Now, let's test this, right? We want to make sure that it also works out for low. So when I go low, what's going to happen? Well, the pin 7 here becomes GND. So that means that there's going to be flow from here. It's not going to go to the 5E anymore because the transistor turns on and connects this part to GND. And then what happens? Do you have a loop still? You have a loop here, here, here. So you still have a loop, but now you only have a GND connection. So there's only GND, there's no 5V. So it's just going to be 0 volts, no power. Okay, so even though you have this closed circuit thing, there's no 5V in there, so you're not going to get a power. And so when you go low, it's going to be off. All right, so let's go ahead and connect this in and make sure that it works. So you see my top right of the screen right there. I have my parts here. I'm going to zoom in for you guys a little bit. All right, here we go. We got a good view here. So I want to do pin 7. First, I want to take out my old circuit here. Okay, these to the side, and just take everything out actually, so I don't get confused here. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, let's go connect pin 7 with my green wire. And the other side is going to go over here. I'll go down to row number 1. All right. And then I want to connect the resistor to that row. And then the other side of the resistor, I'll go to the other side too, because I'm going to make a new connection later. Let me fix this here. Okay. Alright, and then I need my LED, so I'm going to grab one of my LEDs. The long side connects to the same row on that new row I made, and then the short leg will go somewhere else to a new row. Alright, and then lastly, now I just need a GND connection. See on my circuit there, the minus of the LED goes to GND. So I'm going to get a black wire. And the minus is here. Alright, the other side goes to GND. Alright. And so, what's nice about this is that we actually use one less wire. If you remember, we used to connect to VCC. Or, sorry, not VCC. We used to connect to 5V, so we needed this red wire. But now that we've connected it a new way, we don't need that red wire. So that's another reason why this is good to switch it around. So let's power it up. And I might have code in there already, so my light might start blinking. But we're going to do some new code in there. Alright, I'm plugged in. And my light is not on. Okay. That's actually better. Okay, so let's do some coding. Oh, actually no, the light is going. All right, so first off, I'm gonna just put in some blank code in there. So I got my void setup and my void loop. Okay, so I'm just gonna do blank code to clear out the code that's in there. Okay. Alright, it's gone. Alright, so now let's put in some code to turn the light on. Alright, so we got to first set up our pin mode 7, output, because pin 7 is an output. Okay, and then we want to, in my loop, I'm going to turn it on. Digital write 7 high now. So before low was on, right? But because we set it up this new way, I'm going to upload, and it should turn Excellent. There we go. So high is on, and just make sure low should be off. Cool. It's working out. Life is good. All right, so let's keep going now. What I want to do now is I want to be able to control two lights at the same time. Now, we did this before where we controlled two lights at the same time, but the two lights were doing the same exact thing. And that's because we used circuit connections to add the two lights. But what we want to do, we're going to use circuit connections again, but we're going to do it a little bit differently this time. Okay? Before, we just connected the extra light like this. So looking at my screen, before we just added another light. Like this, right? Where we said the plus of it goes to the plus of the other light, the minus of the new light goes to the minus of the old light. And then if I did that, the light number L1 would do the same exact thing as light number L2, okay? And the reason why is because it has the same exact plus and minus connections. Whenever you do that, the two lights, or third light or fourth light, they'll all do the same thing. So we don't really want that in this case. We want the two lights to do different things. All right, so how do we do that? This is what we do. All right, let me undo this. What we need to do is actually connect to another pin. So I'm going to use pin 8, a resistor. Another light, and then to GND. Okay. So both the lights, the minuses, are both at GND. That's always going to be the case. But look at the plus. The plus side for L1 is connected to pin 7, but the plus of L2 is connected to pin 8. So now, when I want to control L1, I program pin number 7 to turn low or high. If I want to control light number 2, I control pin 8. Okay? So let's build this circuit here and let us give it a shot. All right? All right, let me switch up my thing here. Okay. So let's get another color for the pin 8. I'm going to go yellow here. All right. So pin 8. There we go. And what I want to do then is I'm going to go to row 8, just for fun. 8 to 8. All right. And then I need a resistor. All right. I think 470 ohm is cool. The other side goes somewhere else. All right. And then I need another light. The long leg, so this is going to be my L2. The long leg goes on the same row as the resistor. And then the minus connects to GND, the minus of L2. But check out what I'm gonna do here. If you notice this black wire, this is GND already, right? And so that means I can just stick the minus leg into the same row as here for my GND connection. So I'm gonna do that. That's the cool thing about the breadboard, right? It's like convenient because it creates a bunch of extra connection holes for you. All right, so those are my two lights now, and let's see if I can get this thing to turn on. All right, let's get my code here. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to set up the pin mode. Pin mode now, which pin are we using? Pin number 8 now, and we want to do is output because LED is just a second LED, the same exact thing. It's also going to be an output. There will be a time where we have to make it an input, but because it's the same type of part, it's also an output. Okay, and then down in my loop, I'm going to do a digital write 8 high. There we go. Okay. So I have 7 low, so 7 should be off, which is this one up here, and then 8 should be on. So let's upload, just make sure this all works. Cool. Okay, and what if I want them both on? I just turn both high like this. Sweet. All right. So what if I wanted to do this? I want to turn L1, which is the pin 7 light. I wanted to turn L1 on, and I want to have it on for 1 second, turn it off, and then turn on the other light. So I'm going to do a delay 1000. So it's going to turn on for 1000 milliseconds, or same as 1 second. Then I'm going to turn it off, that same light. And remember with this digital write with that, the pin 7, the 7 comma off is key here. Sometimes you might get confused because you forget what pin you're working with. So if you're working with that L1 light, that first light, it's always going to be number 7, okay? So then we're going to turn it off, and then right away what we're going to do is turn on the second light. And let's do the same thing. Let's wait 1000. And then we're going to turn that second light off. And then what happens is that after row 13, line 13 runs, it's going to immediately go back to number 7. Okay? Alright, so let's upload this and see what happens. I messed up here. Oh. Yeah, not off, right? What's off? Low. Messed up there. Yeah, these should be low. Alright, upload. Check it out. They're going back and forth. See? So now, because we've connected the pins to different pin numbers, or connected the lights to different pin numbers, you can do some stuff like this. And so I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let's make it go back and forth faster. I'm going to try 100. Should look kind of cool, I think. There you go. Check it out. They're going back and forth. Okay. Now let's see. Let's add some more here. What if I want both lights on and both lights off, like at the same time? So what I would do is this. I would say, I'm going to make some room here. Actually delete this just to clean it up. I'm going to say digital write 7 high and 8 high. So I'm going to turn both on. Then I'm going to wait 1 second. Then I'm going to turn both off by setting them low. And wait 1 second. Alright. So now I'm controlling them both the same way, right? They're both on, or they're both... Oh, I messed up here. This should be 8. Right? 7 low and 8 low. Alright, let's make sure that this works. Awesome. Okay. So what we've done is we've learned how to change our circuit so that low means off and high means on. We've also learned how to control 2 different lights using 2 different pins. All right. So let's go ahead and assign some challenges. So what could be some good challenges for you guys? Let's see. All right. So number 1 is for 2 lights, okay, blink in sequence. So that's what I had earlier, where it's like light 1 turns on, then actually no, it's a little bit different. Okay, so what I want for this first challenge is that the first light blinks, so it turns on and turns off, and then the second light blinks, turns on and turns off, and then it repeats. Okay, now then what I want is 3 lights blink in sequence. Okay, so what you're going to have to do is follow what I did here, right? I showed you how to wire 2 lights. How would you do the same thing? How would you add a 3rd light? Now you can think about which pin number you want to use, right? Because we started with 7, then we added 8. Maybe you want to use there's a whole bunch of different pin numbers, so you choose what pin number you want to connect the 3rd light to. Okay, and then what you want to do is, once you do that, is see if you can make the 3 lights blink in sequence. And what that means is first light blink, second light blink, 3rd light blink. Okay, and then there's a little bit of a harder one. Okay, once you get that working, I want to make it do this. I'm thinking about the best way to explain this. Maybe I could draw it. Okay, maybe I could draw it. So imagine you have 3 lights here, right? 1, 2, and 3. Let's make that look better here. Okay. So what I would like to happen is that when your program starts, light 1 turns on. Then after that, light 2 turns on, but light 1 stays on, okay? And then after that, light 3 turns on. So they're not blinking in a sequence, they're turning on in a sequence. So at the very end, all 3 of them should be on, okay? And then once you're done, it should all turn off again and then start over. So it goes, light 1 turns on, light 2 turns on, light 3 turns on, and then all off. All right? And then it repeats. So 3 lights turn on in a sequence. Okay? Then turn off when you start over. All right? So it turns on in a sequence, then they all turn off, and then it keeps going. All right, and then my last one is going to be like this. Okay? So it turns on in a sequence. Okay? So that's just like before, but then it's not done. Then what happens is that the 3rd one turns off, then the 2nd one turns off, then the 1st one comes off, and then it repeats. So let me show you again. It's going to be like this one turns on, this one turns on, this one turns on, and then that one turns off, that one turns off, that one turns off, and then it repeats. See if you can do that. All right, so 3 lights turn on in a sequence and turn off in a sequence. And maybe to clarify, number 3 challenge is turn on in a sequence, then turn all off at the same time when you start over. This one is turn on in a sequence and turn off in a sequence before starting over. All right, I think that's good. That should be fun, keep you busy. Have fun with that. I look forward to seeing how you guys do, and I will talk to you on Thursday.